How's it going, everyone? This is Julian with the Arcane Lighthouse. Today I want to go over one of my favorite EDH decks. It is Admiral Beckett Brass. It's a Grixis deck. It focuses on a couple games, actually. One would be the Pirate Steely game on one hand, and on the other hand, you've got your Artifact End game, where you will basically win with a bunch of treasure tokens. So it's really fun to play. It's really early, it's fast and aggressive, and it has a backup plan at the same time. So one of my favorite decks. So let's go ahead and go over it. First card, of course, we're going to go over Beckett Brass herself. I believe it's a woman. So pirates you control get +1/+1. It is on a 3/3 body. So the +1/+1 is actually pretty significant, and it's very helpful. Keep your pirates alive. Since we run a bunch of small pirates, we don't run very many larger ones. And then the important text here in the box is at the beginning of your end step. Gain control of target non-land permanent controlled by a player who was dealt combat damage by 3 or more pirates this turn. Now this trigger is actually fairly hard to trigger. Hitting with 3 pirates usually is a little bit difficult, even with the tools that we have. So, but it is extremely powerful. It is a non-land permanent, so our range of what we can steal is always fairly large. Even if we don't want something, what we're trying to accomplish here mainly is using it as removal. I'm not going to go into full detail into every single card here because that would take too much time, but there will be a link in the comments. I'm going to go ahead and pin that once I finish up the article, and then you can go ahead and check it out once that is up there. But that'll go over everything in full detail. I just want to kind of go through this really quickly and show you the coolest stuff. So as far as our pirates go, we've run about 22 pirates total, including Beckett Brass herself. You don't want to usually go in the red zone with Brass if you can help it, but in the pinch you can. So we do run 2 1-drop pirates. One is the Siren Stormcaller. It is a 1/1 flyer, which is the most significant part. We don't care generally about how large a pirate's stats are. That's why we generally go for the cheaper pirates, because we really don't care. If you're hitting someone for 3 pirates, you're dealing usually around 9 to 12 damage as it is, and they tend to be unblockable, which is it's actually a pretty big number if you're taking out a quarter of someone's health and then you're stealing something. So even with the small pirates, we're doing a lot of damage when Brass is out because they're all getting a +1/+1 bonus. So Siren Stormcaller is a 1/1 flyer, which is amazing. It's absolutely huge for this deck because this is a first turn play and we have a flying evasive pirate out. On top of that, we can pay blue and sacrifice Siren Stormcaller to counter target spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control. This can help protect your more important pirates or late game pieces that have to do with artifacts. So at any point of the time in the game, this guy's amazing. Deadeye Tracker is a 1/1, but you can pay 1 and a black and tap him to exile 2 target cards, any cards from an opponent's graveyard, and you explore with him. That's nice for dealing with graveyard shenanigans, but he does not have evasion, which is unfortunate. We just mainly use him as, if he happens to get evasion, perfect, but we mainly use him as graveyard hate, and he's an early drop, so that's helpful. Moving on, Daring Saboteur is a 2-drop pirate. You can pay 2 and a blue to make her unblockable until end of turn. And then whenever Daring Saboteur deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This is actually really significant. The payment here looks a little bit expensive, but that's fine if we're stealing something anyway. I don't mind paying the 3 mana to make this unblockable to make sure that I steal something. The looting effect is also nice to get to our more important pieces. We have Workhite Marauder here. It's another evasive pirate, and it makes something essentially a 0/1, and it blanks that creature until end of turn. So this gets rid of opponents' threats or blockers that could potentially block our evasive pirates. So it's just an amazing card. It really helps us to get our Brass triggers. Fathom Fleet Captain, also evasive, has Menace, 2/1, which is just great. And a lot of people early on in the game are going to have only 1 blocker or so this gets around it. You want to use his triggered ability as much as possible to make a bunch of Menace pirates, and you don't want to attack Fathom Fleet Captain into a blocker that could kill him. So you usually want to go for the player that's the most open. Typically with pirates, you want to go for the players that are most open anyway, since you can steal any of their mana rocks or anything else that they have. It really doesn't matter as long as we're getting a benefit out of it. Karizev is actually one of the better early pirates in this deck. We've got First Strike Menace, which is actually very helpful as far as she gets around chump blocking, since any kind of the 1 power is not going to really be helpful, but once she gets up to 2 with Brass, that actually becomes much more threatening, especially with all the equipment that we have in the deck. Ragavan is not important really. We just have another evasive pirate here. Dire Fleet Poisoner. This is pseudo evasion with the Death Touch, but she can give someone else Death Touch as well, which is really awesome. You can also flash her in as a defensive card late in the game if you don't need pirates to steal anything, or if you're not really going for that plan anymore, if it's not feasible. So all around, really good card. Then we have here Reverse Snapcaster, essentially. Dire Fleet Daredevil. It's a 2/1 first striker. A lot of the time, you're going to get it early on, and honestly, if you don't cast anything off of her, that's fine. We want an early pirate. But a little bit later on, you can cast something with her, which is really nice. It can actually completely change the game based on whatever you cast. So this is a super helpful pirate. First Strike's not true evasion, but it's somewhat helpful to make sure that no one blocks the chump blockers, because it's kind of worthless to, let's say someone blocks with a 2 toughness important creature. Normally they get away with it, but just the fact that first strikers stay around is nice. Time Stream Navigator, it's an early drop pirate, which is the only thing that really goes for it, as far as it's a bonus, I guess, as far as why we play it. No evasion inherently, which is unfortunate, but we do get an extra turn out of it. So the fact that we get an extra turn and it's a cheap pirate, it is worth the slot in the deck compared to like a 5 or 6 drop or 7 drop pirate. So that is staying. Next, we are going into the 3-drop pirates. These are some of the strongest pirates in the deck, in my opinion, based on what we're trying to do with Brass. So we have here a Stormfleet Sprinter, is a blue-red, 1 on a 2/2 body, haste and can't be blocked. This is one of the best pirates in the deck. Just the fact that it comes out swinging immediately, can't be blocked. It's a complete surprise for a lot of people, and then you steal something. All of a sudden, it's just an amazing card. Slippery Scoundrel, same story here. We don't have the haste, but Ascend. If we are Ascended and have the City's Blessing, which is insanely easy, especially with all the treasure tokens that we generate, this pirate gets hexproof and unblockable. Also super helpful. Naturally unblockable is exactly what we're looking for. 2/2. We don't even care about the stats really, as long as we're dealing combat damage. 3/3 once Brass is out, and then the hexproof is just icing on the cake. It's amazing. We've got Lannery Storm here. No inherent invasion on Lannery Storm, but she is hasty, so that's somewhat of a surprise move where you can just come out swinging and attacking. And then she generates treasure on her own by attacking. Alright, sorry about that, guys. The camera died. I had to change the battery real quick. But so we have here Lannery Storm, what I was saying was it generates a treasure token on every attack. A little bit of bonus, if you know you're going to be attacking into something, you can sacrifice treasures in the main phase 1, pay for something if you know that in some circumstances you can buff her power up and someone may not want to block in that case. Or you could finish someone off with Lannery Storm if you give her evasion. So all around, very nice card, even without the inherent evasion on her. Next we have a new card from Rivals, Forerunner of the Coalition, black and 2. So Forerunner, basically when enters the battlefield, search your library for a pirate card, reveal it, and put it on top of your library. So that's the most important part of the text here. No evasion on this, but we can look for any pirate, which is really nice. We can get whatever pirate we need for the situation. There are a couple that are specifically what we're looking for, which I will get to. As a bonus, whenever another pirate enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. That's just a nice bonus to have. So all around, really solid card. Next we have Ruin Raider here. This is from Ixalan. 2 in a black as well. This is a raid ability. Generally, I hate raid because we're not always attacking. A lot of times we're waiting for an opportune moment to strike and then steal something. But sometimes you just, in order to get raid off, I would recommend trying to attack every turn, even if we're not hitting for the 3 pirates. And at the beginning of your end step, if you attacked the creature this turn, reveal the top card of your library. You lose life, you lose mana cost, and goes to your hand. It's essentially a Dark Confidant in that way. The reason why we would run this over Dark Confidant is because we get to choose, like if we're low on life, we don't have to attack necessarily. There's a little bit more flexibility as far as that goes, and it's a pirate, so obviously relevant creature type. But as far as raid, you don't want to attack and lose your pirates just to get the raid trigger. It's not worth it. Unless, it's totally accidental and whatever, but you don't want to just run your guys into their bigger dudes just to get the raid trigger. So then we have Protein Raider. This is also a raid ability. So here's the deal with this guy. Early on, he's just a pirate. If you don't trigger a raid ability, that's fine early on. Later on, maybe once there's more stuff on the board. Main phase 2. You can bring this guy out. He can either copy one of your other pirates that are evasion, such as the Slippery Scoundrel or Stormfleet Sprinter, or if there's an actual huge threat on the battlefield that you would like to have as well, he has the flexibility of doing so. So a really great card. We have Ruthless Knave. This is one of the most important pirates in the deck. So he's a sack outlet. He's a 3/2, and you can pay 2 and a black, or with Training Grounds, just 1 black. Sacrifice a creature, create 2 colorless treasure artifact tokens with blah blah blah. So you know what treasures do. You can sacrifice 3 treasures to draw a card. That is not nearly as important. We don't actually want to sacrifice the 3 treasures to draw a card normally, because that is a little bit too high of a cost. But the fact that we generate 2 treasures off of sacrificing creatures is great. You only use that ability really as a response to your pirates dying. You don't want to just willy-nilly create treasures unless you're trying to win the game with Revel and Riches out of nowhere, or Mechanized Production. So the reason why this guy is so important is because this is also one of the best pirates in the deck. I've seen a lot of articles and people knock this card for the high cost. He is a 4 cost to bring out one red and 3 colorless. He's a 4/3, so his stats are actually really good. And then you can pay 3 and a red to gain control of target creature. An opponent controls on a turn, it untaps and it gains haste. You can activate this only as a sorcery, which people have knocked him for, but I have won games with him by himself. When you have Training Grounds, it is a red and 1 to just gain control of something. So you can just take someone's entire board, swing with all your pirates, all of their stuff, and just kill them. Or if that's not even really an option, if you have Training Grounds and these 2 out, actually just forget about Training Grounds. If you pay 4 to steal something, attack them with it, and whatever pirates you have, and then you pay 3 to sacrifice it, that's an amazing play on its own for 7 mana. You're dedicating your whole turn to doing that, but you take something of theirs, you attack them with it or attack someone else with it, and then you sacrifice it to get 2 treasures. It's an amazing play. With Training Grounds, you're basically stealing something for 2, sacking it for 1, and you're basically wiping someone's entire board just by doing that. And you're already swinging with those creatures at them anyway. So these 2 cards are amazing together. They will probably never leave this deck, even though neither of them have evasion. Next we have a blue and black 2 pirate with Death Touch. And he also has an Ascend ability. So if you have the City's Blessing, whenever he deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So the reason why this guy's good is Death Touch is semi-evasion. A lot of people don't want to block into it if they've got bigger guys. If they lose their big guy and you lose your small guy, even though it's a pirate, that's fine. It's exactly what we're trying to go for. And if they don't block, then you get to draw a card and whatever brass pirate shenanigans you've got going on. So really cool guard. Next we have the Hostage Taker, blue and black as well, too. And then, you know what this does when it enters the battlefield. You can take control of target artifact or creature, and then it basically exiles onto Hostage Taker. And then you can cast that card and pay mana as the mana of any color to cast it. This is an insane removal. It's an insane removal card. Super helpful. We always want removal. Beckett Brass is essentially pseudo removal just because we're taking things away from people, but this is just removal on top of it. No inherent evasion, but that's fine because we're just stealing stuff right off the bat with this guy. Really strong with Deadeye Navigator too. You can basically just keep flickering Deadeye Navigator, exiling stuff. So insane card. Last of the 4 drops, we have Pitiless Plunderer. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a treasure token. So, whereas Revel and Riches cares about when your opponent's creatures dies, this guy cares about when your creatures die. So when you have both of them out, it's just whenever any creature dies, you get a treasure. He's a 1/4, so high toughness. That's fine. We don't even care about the fact that he's at 1 power. Like I said before, we don't care about how big our guys are generally because we actually don't want some people to die sometimes. We want to keep them we can get them at a low life total. As long as they're alive, we can keep their stuff, kill the other players with it, and then finish off that other player. So he just generates treasure, so good card. And the last of our pirates is a 5-drop, blue-black, 3. This is one of the best pirates just out there. Gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control, which is just insane. The amount of treasure that we generate, this guy is going to get huge. You pay 2, and blue-black is an ability. If you have Training Grounds, it's just blue and black, which is just nuts. You can create this guy creates treasure on his own, or on their own. If you give this card evasion, and you have a lot of treasures, you're going to finish someone off just right off the bat. So really, really good card. And that's actually all the pirates we have. As you notice, we only have 1 5-drop. Everything else is cheaper because we don't want those bigger guys. Dire Fleet, the 5-drop with the Menace Death Touch is nice because he has evasion. He has like a double evasion kind of thing. But the 1/3 of life totals lost is not exactly what we're looking for. Plus, it draws a lot of hate. And I had him in here. He did good work, but he just didn't do enough on his own because he's a very high cost. And it sounds weird. It sounds weird to say that 5 is a high cost in EDH. I mean, it fairly is, but it's especially high in this deck because we really need to keep our mana base convert mana cost low. So that's the only one. Angrath's Marauders is a no-no. It's a 7-drop, but it's just way too expensive for a 4/4. All your stuff deals double damage, but again, that's not what we're looking for. So as far as our non-pirate creatures, we've got a few. I wouldn't say 7 or 8. So the most important one by far is Whirler Rogue. So when Whirler Rogue enters the battlefield, you put 2 1/1 Thopters on the battlefield. So right away, it sets itself up with its own ability, which is tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. That's exactly... It's perfect. It's the blend of both worlds because we are getting more artifacts, and Thopters are exactly the kind of things we need because we have a lot of ways to use artifact creatures and abuse them, especially tokens. And then tap 2 untapped artifacts. I don't even care about the fact that they're creatures. It's just any artifact that you tap, and you can make a pirate unblockable. This is one of the best enablers for Brass in the deck. This will never come out. A little bit more of a janky way of granting evasion is Grenzo. He's a little bit of a rogue card. So he's a 2 red goblin, and when a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you have a couple choices. One is to go target creature that player controls, and one is to exile a top card of that player's library, and blah blah blah. You can cast it and spend mana of any color to cast it. Most of the time, we're to be goading them. So basically, he's a trap card in that if someone's aggressive in any way or they're attacking, that leaves themselves open for us to swing in with our pirates, and then we basically hit them for damage, potentially steal something. We're going to goad their entire board so that they're not attacking us, but they have to attack. So by the next turn, they're attacking somebody else. They're leaving themselves open yet again for us to yet again swing in, goading all their stuff again. It's just an endless loop with that. So most of the time we're going to be goading them, but if they don't have anything out and we're stealing something and whatever, we can steal even more stuff by exiling the top card of the library and then casting it. So really, really cool card. He doesn't work 100% of the time because he doesn't actually grant ways to give you evasion and stuff, but he's still very good when you have a good board. Hellkite Tyrant, he is one of the late game end games I was talking about before with the artifact branch of this deck. So we have tons of ways to get a bunch of treasures and Thopters and stuff on the board. So getting to 20 is still a little bit difficult, but the fact that he can steal treasure when he deals combat damage to a player, when he deals combat damage to a player, gain control of all our artifacts they control. He's a 6/5 body with flying and trample, so he's pretty much guaranteed to deal damage. Very, very strong card, and he is one of the end game pieces of the deck. Deadeye Navigator is another non-pirate card. He's just insane. He combos with so many cards. I'm not going to go over every single one of them in the video, but I will cover that in the article. Like I said, with Hostage Shaker, that's one of the more significant things to kind of cover. Even Whirler Rogue, you just keep making tokens every turn to just make your guys unblockable. There's just so many cool things with this guy, with the Dire Fleet Daredevil, casting people's instant sorceries and stuff. And at the same time, he's also protection. Someone single target removals your guy, you just flicker them with Deadeye Navigator. So I like the fact that he also has Deadeye in his name by chance, even though there's like a bunch of Deadeye cards in here. Nothing to do with the Pirate Fleet, though, but really awesome. Then we have Hangerback Walker. This used to be a Sharding Sphinx, but it was way too expensive and too clunky for the deck, and I took it out for this, so I'm trying him out. I actually really like him so far. It's a XX, and then he comes out with X +1/+1 counters, so you have to pay 2 to get 1+1/+1 counter on him when you first cast him, which is actually what we want to do, because the more you spend in here on this initial casting cost, the less you're getting. Unless you have literally nothing else to do with your mana, then by all means just dump it all in here. But we generally want to cast him for 2, get 1+1/+1 counter on him, and then every turn right before your turn, if he hasn't died, you want to tap him for 1 and then put a +1/+1 counter on him, because that's more. You're getting more out of the mana per 1 mana. You're getting a +1/+1 each time. So when he dies, you get Thopters based on how many +1/+1 counters there are, and those are crazy. You can sacrifice him to a bunch of effects like Ruthless Knave and stuff. So he is a really good card. And then we've got Murbalsphere, another token artifact enabler. He combos with a Navigator, so every time you flicker him, you get a. I guess I shouldn't say he or she or anything. It would be an it. I guess it's a robot. So every time you flicker it, it creates 4/1/1 bursts, which is just absolutely nuts in the deck. It combos with Hellkite Tyrant, combos with Mechanized Production, and we have a lot of things to do, a lot of shenanigans to do with the little counters. So yeah, not to mention he's just a really strong body. So really good card. That's probably never going to come out either. Marionette Masters is actually a little bit of a sleeper. I don't know why people don't run this card as much. I run it in my Makar deck. I run it in this deck. It's an insane card. You can combo out this with such examples such as the 5-drop pirate that we have, where we can create just treasures right off the bat. So you can sacrifice all your treasures, and Marionette Master is just going to kill somebody, basically. You can flicker it with Deadeye Navigator. You almost always want to create the servo tokens, since we do a lot of shenanigans with the artifact creature tokens. But if you can guarantee that you're going to kill everybody else at the table with a bunch of treasure, then put the +1/+1 counters on her and go nuts. So yeah, really, really good card. Like I said, we want to keep our mana cost low, and this card's just good enough that even 6 is really it's something we want to actually pay for. Next, we have our last non-pirate is Slowbad. He is actually really good. It's hard to notice how good he is because he doesn't directly impact your board, but you can sacrifice an artifact to make target artifact indestructible until the turn. So we have a bunch of artifact creature tokens. We have a bunch of treasures. You can pitch those to protect your swords. We run a bunch of swords in here. We run a bunch of different artifacts. He actually does a lot of work, even though you may not realize it. So really good card. Next, we're going to go into our artifacts. Right here, we're running 4 swords. I know it's a bit expensive, but the reason for that is these are all, in their own way, kind of enablers for combat damage because of the protection. I guess in most important to least important order, we've got Fire and Ice, Feast and Famine, Light and Shadow, and War and Peace. As far as the protection, that's the main thing we want. That way we can go through for damage and steal something with Beckett Brass. Not to mention that our guys are smaller, so that's why we're running 4 swords. This beefs them up. We're dealing actually a lot of damage with these small guys with Beckett Brass's passive buff and the +2/+2 from the swords. And we've also got a lot of ways to enable combat damage or other ways to enable unblockable. So we're almost always getting the trigger off of these. It's not even a problem. So I'm not going to go into why each one's good. You may question why I don't have Body and Mind. Simple answer, it's just not good enough. I'm not going to go over it in full detail. It's just really not good enough for this deck as far as what we're going for. I excused War and Peace. I decided to put it in just because this card will just suddenly destroy someone who's hoarding a bunch of cards and has Reliquary Tower out or whatever, or like they're playing a Krufix deck or something. This will just kill them. So that's the only real reason. Swords are really great cards. As far as other artifacts, we have these two generate treasure. They're a little bit of a pseudo ramp thing. We don't actually run a lot of ramp. If you have noticed, we don't run a lot of removal either, because Beckett Brass on its own is kind of removal. We've got repeatable removal from Hostage Taker and stuff, and in this case ramp. We have a lot of treasure tokens, which we don't always want to use, but I mean we want to use in order to get stuff out and advance our board state. So treasure map, when you pay 1 and tap it, you scry 1. That's nice. We can go through our deck and find the cards that we need, and then you put a landmark counter on it when you get 3. You transform this, and then it becomes a land where we can sacrifice treasure, draw a card. This is good enough, whereas Ruthless Knave, you have to sacrifice 3 treasure, draw a card. It's not good. This card is good because you can tap it and sacrifice treasure, draw a card, which is actually something that's worth it. I would almost always do that if I have a treasure and if this is untapped and available, if I'm not using the mana for anything else. So that's very good. Prying Blade is a +1/+0 equipment. It's only 1 to bring it out, which is really nice. The equip cost is 2 though, which I don't like sometimes, but that's fine. And whenever we deal combat damage to a player, we get a treasure token. So we have a lot of evasion on a lot of our pirates, and a lot of ways to grant that evasion, so it's not really an issue. I wish it kind of gave evasion as well, but you know, it's good enough. I almost took it out actually because it wasn't doing enough, I felt like, but the fact that it's a 1-drop and equips for 2 justifies its cost, in my opinion. This is also kind of a ramp spell. It's weird. Inspiring Statuary. I also don't see this card run for some reason. Really good card. We have a lot of treasure tokens, so now instead of sacrificing them, we can just keep them around and tap them to add 1 mana to our mana pool to cast non-artifact spells. We actually don't have a lot of artifacts spells in the deck, but we have a lot of ways to generate artifacts with non-artifact spells. So this is 100% perfect for this deck. This basically lets us dump our hand out onto the battlefield. A really good card. Dowsing Dagger. So when this enters, you give opponent 0/2 plant tokens. So obviously we don't want to give it to the person that we're trying to hit. And then equipped creature gets +2/+10, we don't care about. And whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to player, it transforms into a Gilded Lotus, where we can add 3 of any 1 mana to our mana pool. This card is really good. I took out Sword of the Animus, actually. I actually had both of them in here, but Sword of the Animus just doesn't do enough for the deck, whereas this is just an immediate bonus. And you can make someone happy at the same time with the plant tokens. As far as our actual mana rocks, we only run Soul Ring and Chromatic Lantern. We don't run any signets at all, nothing else, no Mind Stones or anything. Because we have so many ways to generate mana, we don't need anything else. Soul Ring is just Soul Ring, because you're playing Commander, and Chromatic Lantern is mana fixing. So next we have Bident of Thassa. This is a reward for us dealing combat damage. So whenever a creature we control deals combat damage to the player, we draw a card. It has a little bit of a helpful way to open up someone's defenses by you can pay 1 in blue and tap it to creatures your opponents control attack this turn if able. So you're going to activate this on the guy's turn that you want to hit, and then deal combat damage to him and take something. Doesn't guarantee anything for their main phase 2 as far as what they're going to play as far as blockers or anything, but a little bit of a helpful thing. If you do this, they're probably going to attack you, which is that's fine. You can just attack back and steal their stuff. So this card can go nuts. It'll draw you a bunch of cards with how much we're hitting people for. Skull Clamp. This is an insane draw card for our Thopters and Servos and stuff that we make. We just pay 1 mana basically to draw 2 cards and sacrifice a little artifact creature token that we don't care about. This card is nuts in a lot of decks that can abuse it, and it's no different here. Trading Post is a little bit slower of a draw, but we can sacrifice actual treasure tokens to it to draw cards. Additionally, we can sacrifice the artifact creature tokens that we don't care about either to return target artifacts from our graveyard to our hand. We don't run a whole lot of artifacts themselves, like I said before, but we're mainly looking at the draw aspect here for sacrificing artifacts. As far as these other 2 abilities, we don't really use, but I don't think anyone really uses those 2 abilities, the Trading Post, as far as I've seen. So, last artifact, we have the Immortal Sun. This is going in every deck. I mean, this is just an insane card. Shuts down Planeswalkers. You draw an extra card. Spells you cast cost 1 less. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Just an insane card. It's going to go in like every deck pretty much. It should go in even decks that don't care about creatures that much. An extra draw and a cheaper, every spell being cheaper is just insane. So let's go into Enchantments. One of our best ones is Cover of Darkness. In my local meta, actually, like a lot of people run black cards, so it's not as great. But giving all our pirates freer, this will destroy anyone that's not playing black, basically. Really, really good card for 2 mana. That's 1 black and 1 colorless. So one of the best enchantments in the deck by far. That's never coming out. Thassa, God of the Sea, which is appropriate since we're pirates. We need the God's blessing for the sea. So you've got your standard devotion, indestructible, and stuff. Beginning of your upkeep, scry 1, which is actually really helpful. But what we want, of course, is target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. All you have to do is pay blue and 1, and if you get devotion to blue and she becomes a creature, Training Grounds just makes it 1 blue. So this card I don't ever foresee coming out either. Enables our plays. We can basically combo with Brass's ability. Just super good card. I put this in the enchantment section as opposed to the creature section because most of the time it's going to be enchantment. Revel in Riches is an enchantment. This is one of our end game pieces, kind of like Hellkite Tyrant. So this is actually, in a way, an anti-board wipe because whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, create a colorless treasure token. And when at the beginning of our upkeep, if we have 10 or more treasures, we win the game. So this is one of our late game piece or mid game pieces where we want to win with if we can't win via pirates. It's also an anti-board wipe. If people are board wiping, they're gonna there's gonna be so many creatures that die that by the time it's our turn we'd win. So just a really good card. The fact that it has kind of a hidden purpose or a double purpose is just amazing to me. That's one of our game winners. Mechanized Production, same story. We can enchant any artifact we control, so we can enchant treasures, we can enchant Thopter tokens, doesn't matter. The reason why it doesn't matter, we can even enchant swords, because at the beginning of your upkeep, create a token that's a copy of the enchanted artifact, and then if you control 8 or more artifacts with the same name as one another, we win the game. It doesn't even care about the artifact that enchants. We can enchant something totally different, and then just out of nowhere we have eight treasures and we win the game. So it doesn't care about what we enchant. As long as we have 8 or more that share the same name, we win. So yeah, it's a little bit too hard to steal treasure, so we're going to go ahead and manufacture it. Really great card. One of the game-winning pieces. New card. Storm the Vault. So we have a lot of ways to deal combat damage, and whenever one or more pirates, so it's not for each, but whenever one or more creatures we control deal combat damage to a player, we create a treasure, and then at the beginning of our end step, if we control 5 or more artifacts, transform it, which is actually really easy to do in this deck. It's usually the first turn we play this, we're going to transform it. It turns into Tolarian Academy, so we can either add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool, or tap to add blue to our mana pool for each artifact we control. We generate so many artifacts, separate instances of artifacts, because they're all tokens, that this is just going to basically add us blue mana times infinity. So we have basically either all blue mana or just basically infinite colorless mana, depending on whatever you're trying to cast. So that's a really good card on auto include. Thopter Spy Network is a little bit slow, but still really good because it works with all of our other artifact token creators. So at the beginning of our upkeep, if we control an artifact, put a 1/1 Thopter artifact creature token, and whenever one or more artifact creatures we control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card. This counts for every single artifact creature that deals combat damage to a player. So sometimes I've even found myself equipping swords and stuff to Thopters just to deal combat damage, to get that trigger off the swords, to get the trigger off of this, and it counts for each artifact creature token that deals combat damage. So or artifact creatures in general, not even tokens. So this is actually a really good card. I don't think it's going to come out anytime soon. Just amazing. Then we have Training Grounds. I've mentioned this multiple times when I was going through the Pirates and stuff. This is just an amazing card. It couldn't really function nearly as well without this card. Really simple, but really highly effective. I know it's a little bit expensive, but just amazing. Arcane Adaptation. You may think this is a little bit weird. Because we're not running 30 pirates or so, we run this card. So as Arcane Adaptation enters battlefield, choose a creature type, obviously pirates in this case, and then all those little Thopters that are flying and stuff, all those little servos, mainly the Thopters, they become pirates. So, and additionally, whatever creatures you still become pirates as well with Beckett Brass. So now you've got a bunch of little Thopters with pirate hats, and they count as pirates, and they're evasive, and now you're dealing combat damage easily with just little 3/1/1 Thopters. It's just amazing because now you get to just trigger Brass's ability every time. Really good card. Finally, we have a couple curses. We're actually using the Curse of Opulence and Curse of Verbosity. The fact that, so if you don't know what these do, essentially whenever you attack the player that's enchanted with this, that you enchant, you either, in this case, get a gold artifact token that you can sacrifice, add mana, which is very similar to treasure, and then in this case, you draw a card. If any other player attacks that player, they get the bonus of these, but you also get the bonus of these. So, you actually end up drawing a lot of cards with this, making a lot of gold with this. Every deck wants to draw cards, and in our case, we do want a lot of artifact tokens, so these are both very good in the deck. Moving on to sorceries. This used to be an Icy Blast, but I found that this was actually more useful, even though it's a sorcery. Whereas Icy Blast is an instant and just taps their board. Whereas this one, you pay blue, and X. X target creatures can't be blocked this turn, and until the turn, those creatures gain whenever this creature just comes to the end of your player, draw a card. So this is actually nuts. We get to make our guys unblockable, hit with our pirates, get the trigger off of Brass at the end of the turn, and we're drawing at least 3 cards. So really good card. And I actually just recently found out about this because I don't really pay attention to a lot of Amonkhet and stuff. So this is really cool when I found it. Indomitable Creativity. This is actually not going to be removal most of the time. We have to pay 3 red and X to destroy X target artifacts and or creatures. So for each permanent destroyed this way, its controller reveals the top card of their library until an artifact or creature card is revealed, and then those players put the exiled cards that are exiled this way on the battlefield. So basically, you can turn your treasures, your servos and stuff, and into basically random artifacts and or artifacts and creatures from your deck, and just the fact that you're transforming your treasures into all these huge things, potentially Hellkite Tyrant and stuff, is just amazing. In the pinch, you can also hit their really annoying creatures like Eldrazi and stuff. This will take care of it too. Next sorcery we have is Brass Bounty. This may actually come out. I haven't liked it so far. It's a 7-drop. And for each land you control, you get a treasure. This may or may not come out. I want to play test it a little bit more, but it's a little bit too expensive for my tastes, and it's not exactly what we're looking for. It does nothing else. Then we have Vandal Blast and Sinkhole. These are kind of our removal sorcery speed. Vandal Blast because we're playing red and we want to get rid of enemy artifacts and stuff. And Sinkhole, this is mainly for Homeward Path because we're stealing creatures a lot. This will get rid of that. It may become a Sinkhole or Wasteland because I've found myself really short in mana. One time I was playing a game where I was just at 4 mana the entire game, and to cast this, I would have had to give up basically half of my turn. Whereas if I had Wasteland or something, that wouldn't have been the case, and I had to really get rid of something that was annoying. That yeah, it was against Young, and I think I ended up losing. Wait, did I win that? I think I won that. I don't know. It was really close. I think I actually lost that because he.
Was that yesterday?
Yeah, I think so. He made an Army of the Damned, and I just couldn't deal with it. So Cryptic Command is actually a new inclusion. This is actually insane because this finally gives us a counterspell, and the main thing here is actually tap all creatures your opponents control. This basically lets us swing in for free. So it's just a super good utility card. We can draw a card off of it and tap all their stuff, or draw a card and return something, or draw, counter target spell. Cryptic Command, you all know it, really good in this deck. Our only other counter spell is Spell Swindle. Gives us a lot of treasure tokens based on whatever we counter, of course. But this is funny because just out of nowhere, you just counter their Eldrazi and you just get a bunch of treasure out of it. Like treasure just explodes out of Kozilek or something, and now you have basically a setup for Revel and Riches to automatically just win the game. So really awesome card. A little bit too expensive, but I just enjoy it. Finally, we have for our instant Chaos Warp. This is just a complete emergency trigger button when there's just something we absolutely cannot deal with. Because Grixis doesn't have always the best answers to things. Chaos Warp is just amazing, this is something that you reserve for that moment where you just cannot do something or cannot deal with something, and you have to use this card to get rid of it. So don't use it liberally in this deck because we don't have a lot of removal. Our main removal is through Brass, and if Brass can't remove something, that's when we use that. Finally, our only Planeswalker is Daretti, Ingenious Iconoclast, not the mono red version, but this one because he makes for his +1/1/1 useless artifact creatures that have Defender that we can just sacrifice to things. most of the time we're doing +1s just endlessly. And then finally we've got a -1. You may sacrifice an artifact if you destroy target artifact or creature. In a pinch, we can remove something, maybe something like that would block our attack. Get rid of it, and then swing in with pirates. So this guy's really good. Or get rid of something that's just absolutely devastating we can't deal with. But most of the time we'll be +1 and +1 and +1 until we hit 7, actually, not 6. We don't actually want to kill Duretti most of the time. We can -6 to... I actually copied 3 Herald Horn yesterday, so I just chose Pirate, 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 and all my pirates cost 3 less, and I just look at the top card. I scried with Thassa. If it wasn't a pirate, I just put it down. Next thing I knew, I looked at the top cards, a pirate, got it, pirate, got it. So this guy's really cool. We don't actually want to kill him with his ultimate, though. Most of the time we want to +1 him. So it's fine if you go from 7 to 1 and then just +1 from there, but most of the time we want to keep him around. So that's it for the non-land cards. Going into very briefly the lands, how I built this deck. We run 3 fetches. I know it's expensive, but it's based on however you want to play it. But this is how I have it. So 3 fetches to get into these 3 shocks.
Please don't be budget if you're a pirate player.
Oh, actually, sorry about that. This was out of order. So we have 3 fetches here, and then we have our 3 shocks. Then we have 3 checks, and then we run 3 bounces. And then we run 4 Ennies. One of them is Crumbling Necropolis, and there's tapped, which is fine. Unclaimed Territory, we're going to call Pirates, of course. And then Path of Ancestry and Command Tower. So the cool thing about Path of Ancestry is it hits both Pirates and humans. So even like your Whirler Rogue and stuff will let you scry off of that. Command Tower is the best mana fixing, one of the best mana fixing lands. And then as far as our utility lands, we have 6. Which one of our most important ones, Rogue's Passage, which lets us go in unblockable with a creature, exactly what we're looking for. Field of Ruins, pretty close. I wouldn't say it's close to Rogue's Passage as far as usability, but this gets rid of Homeward Path, which is one of our banes of our existence. Mystifying Maze, this actually needs to be an Arcane Lighthouse.
Get it?
Get it? But
all right, we're moving on.
All right, moving on. Poor Man's Maze. It's gonna be an Arcane Lighthouse. I wouldn't include this. I'd include Arcane Lighthouse instead.
What if our LGS has any more Arcane Lighthouse?
Yeah, every time I've asked our LGS if they had Arcane Lighthouse, they've been sold out. So I guess we're getting popular. So Reliquary Tower. You have no maximum hand size. It pretty much goes in any deck. Especially if we go nuts with like Biden of Thassa or whatever, we can just draw suddenly a bunch of cards. Very good card to have just in general in any deck. Command Beacon, we don't have... the reason I run this is because Admiral Beckett Brass, we want to keep as cheap as possible to bring out. And this basically gets around the whole Commander Text thing if she's died too many times, or even died once. I'd bring it back just to cast for 4 and suddenly steal something. Finally, we have Temple of the False God. I consider this a utility land because it's not always going to be applicable to the situation. So adding 2 mana to your mana pool is just nice to have. So as far as how many of the counts of basics I run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 islands. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 islands.
Julian can count. It's been proven on camera.
4 swamps and 4 mountains each. So we run more islands because naturally we just have more blue in the deck, and because they're pirates that go in the ocean and stuff, obviously. So I hope you like the deck profile. It's a very fun deck. It is very fast. And it's pretty competitive. I know it's a little bit pricey. I can get you the exact price in the article I'm going to write based on, of course, timing and prices and change stuff. So the article may not be finished by the time this is uploaded. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it in the comments so it'll be on top. Ready for you to look at and kind of read over, and I'll go into even more detail as far as what the deck can do. So hope you enjoy. We're gonna have a little bit more deck profiles as far as EDH in the future. So I hope you look forward to that. And if there's any suggestions or anything as far as what I could change, what you think would be better, leave that in the comments below. And if you enjoyed it, however, you can go ahead and hit like. And we're gonna have a lot more in the future for you. So yeah, peace out.